My name is Michael Abu Jones. I'm 58 years old. I'm a physician in private practice for the last 30 years. I am a product of Bummy. My father was born here in Bulla. My mother is from Cape Mount County. I went to school in Liberia from elementary to high school and then on to college at the University of Liberia. Later, I traveled, I went to the AMW College of Medicine and graduated in 1981. I worked in the hospital at JFK for several years, and then I traveled just before the war started to the United States, where I've been for the past about 25 years. I came back to Liberia in 2006 because of my desire to give back. And giving back meant trying to provide jobs for people within Bummy County. As a medical doctor, I'm in a very unique position to speak on healthcare. As I mentioned before, I grew up all my years in Liberia. I also went to school in Liberia. I trained and did my internship at JFK Hospital. I've also worked upcountry in the hospitals. Since I came back last year, I did a health fair throughout Bummy County. That gave me a very good idea of what the health needs of the people are. There are lots of people walking around with lots of chronic illnesses: diabetes, high blood pressure, HIV, heart disease. I met a young kid yesterday with a heart valve problem that cannot be addressed here in Liberia. We have to address in terms of public health needs, because everything is not giving medicine. You want to be preventive in your medical care. So we have to provide funding for that, because if you can prevent people from getting sick, you can save yourself a lot more money than treating them when they're already ill. Lastly, as you probably already know, this country was devastated by the civil crisis, and most of our professional doctors left and went away. We were unable to continue to train doctors. So we have to redouble our efforts. I know since the administration took over, they have sent students away and some of them have come back. But we need more and more of these students. So we have to put an emphasis on training more doctors and training more paramedical personnel like physician assistant, nurse practitioners, nurses aid, etc. So these are areas we have to put emphasis on. But we also have to keep in mind that even though there's a need, you need to have the money to meet these needs. And so there are other competing efforts that will have to be addressed. But we've seen with the recent Ebola crisis that just a little bit of stress from Ebola totally devastated our entire healthcare system. A lot of that was due to the inefficiency of the government to, first of all, foresee the problem, secondly, address it in a timely manner, and then address the problem with the proper professionals that were needed to tackle that problem. I personally came to Liberia in July and was here throughout August, and I offered my assistance to the administration, and they just totally ignored me. I'm a very well qualified physician. I worked and trained in one of the best hospitals in New York City, where I saw a lot of the complications that occur in Ebola. And a lot of those complications are what kill people. And a lot of those complications could have been avoided. There's a common saying: if there's no justice, there's going to be no peace. Justice depends on fairness to everyone, regardless of their status in the society. We want to ensure that people are treated fairly in any kind of civil or other legal dispute. You want to also put in places rules that will ensure the rights of the people in the country. I say this because one of the things that really irritates me about the legal system in this country and why we have so much corruption is because the people in leadership who are supposed to be making the laws they themselves ignore the rules that already exist. The right contracts with these multilateral companies to come in, and then to do side deals with these companies so that they can get money on the side. That should be made illegal. It's not illegal now, it should be made illegal, because what then happens is they're going to write that contract in a fashion that will be to the detriment of the Liberian people and only to the benefit of themselves and the entity they're writing that deal with. First of all, the reason why the peace and reconciliation process failed is because the people who were implicated in the process became leaders, legislators, senators, president, etc. These people were implicated in that process, so they had no interest in seeing this thing going through. I would say, fortunately for somebody like me, I did not have any part to play in that. So I will be someone who really will look out for advancing that process to its whatever rational and legal conclusion, and then trying to implement whatever they recommend to us. Because injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Well, again, this is important, very important, because the economy affects the lives of every one of us. The first thing I want to do is review all of the contracts that have been written, because from what I've seen, some of the contracts they have written with these multilaterals are so elementary that people are giving access to everything we have without any mention of what we're going to benefit from it, or how we're going to benefit, or how we're going to exploit that. A simple example is natural gas. If and when we start mining oil, natural gas today is one of the most valuable products. It's being used to drive the turbines to run the turbines that produce electricity. If you look at our comment on natural gas, is a one-page piece, and it says if the drillers decide, whatever the drillers decide to do with natural gas, that's it. But these things need to be evaluated. More importantly, you want to know how much money we're supposed to be getting from these different companies, and whether that money is really coming into the economy or is being diverted to other sources. You want to cut up all of the loopholes that allow corruption to exist, and then we can start addressing the wealth that this country has. This is a very wealthy country, but it's being administered very poorly, and this is why our people, 85, 95% unemployment. I go throughout this county, and I see a lot of very healthy young men and women in the most productive part of their lives, 25, 30, 40 years old, no jobs. And now they did everything they're supposed to do. They went to school, they obeyed the rule, they graduated, and they couldn't find jobs. They have to now go start making coal. Very intelligent young man. I mean, I'm just appalled at what is this going to happen, because these young people are going to be having families and children, and if there's no opportunities for them, they're more likely to cause disruptions. More importantly, the generation after them is going to be following the same track. This is why within Bombay County, I personally have invested my own time and finances to start 6 farms throughout the county. The goal, in short, is to extend these farms up to 20,000 acres, so that at some point we would have planted rubber, palm, cocoa, which we've already started, and we should be generating within 5 to 7 years about, at the minimum, if rubber or palm is at its lowest, $400, $500 per ton, generating about $20 million a year. When the prices on those commodities rises, that will rise also. But I've inverted the percentages that you see the multilaterals get, like Sime Darby. 80% of those funds are going to go towards the workers and the citizens of Bombay County. Of that, 60% is going to go towards their salaries, 20% is going to go towards education, another 20% is going to go towards health care, as we're talking about. So the people of Bombay County are not going to be dependent on the central government for the health care within the next 5-7 years when I become senator. We are going to fund our own health care, and whatever we get from the central government, that's going to make our health care situation even better. This can be done. We have the land, and people are willing to work. And at the present time, we provide a job to 250 people throughout the county, and we're going to be expanding that hopefully once we get our contract signed to 700 people. So there are lots of things that individuals themselves can do, but the government has to do its part. There has to be honesty in what these contracts that are being signed, and I don't see that. So I'm going to be one person who's going to stand up against corruption that exists within the central government and ensure that the people of Liberia get what is due them.